Now new at 6, critics are crying foul after a member of the state elections board attended Donald Trump's rally Saturday and was recognized by the former president. The former president also recognized 2 other board members, but they did not attend.
I don't know if you've heard, but the Georgia State Election Board is in a very positive way. This is a very positive thing, Marjorie. They're on fire. They're doing a great job. 3 members, Janice Johnson, Rick Jeffries, and Janelle King. 3 people are all pit bulls fighting for honesty, transparency, and victory. They're fighting. Are they here? Where are they? Where are they? Where are they? Thank you. What a job. Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
It's not about fighting socialism or communism or Marxist whatever. It's not about America first. It's not about some deep state that needs to be uprooted. It's about wanting our system of government to go away. It's about creating a sense of emergency, a sense of an enemy within, so that the public at large can be pushed and persuaded into giving up this system of government and just letting their guy, their real man, their strong man take over. And when that is what you are up against, no, do not be surprised when it turns out they're not going to respect election results, because they don't want elections to be the way we decide things anyway.
In a typical election cycle, somebody who calls out 3 members of a nonpartisan election body at their rally might gain some traction. But the fact is, Trump's rallies are full of so much rambling, insults, and lies. Little is being reported about how dangerous that rhetoric at that rally was. He called out by name 3 members of the Georgia Election Board. The Georgia Election Board is meant to be nonpartisan, and they oversee elections in Georgia. One of those attendees was even at the rally, even though they have a code of conduct that says they are supposed to be nonpartisan. They may be taking their cue from SCOTUS, who doesn't seem to also care about the fact that federal judges in general have a code of conduct. So if it doesn't apply to them, I suppose this Georgia Election Board member doesn't think it applies to them either. And because of the fact that Trump is so outrageous at his rallies, he seems to be flying under the radar with this. Well, we're going to report on it. So here's what happened in Georgia. In just under 1 year, the election deniers took over the Georgia Election Board, a nonpartisan board. What happened was Dr. Janice Johnson used to be the lone election denier on the board, and she tried to propose a rule kind of making the no excuse mail-in ballot more difficult. Well, the non-MAGA Republican voted against it, and the measure failed. There was a huge effort at that point to get him off the board, and that was successful. And then him and one other person were both replaced. So the 3 election deniers on the board now are Janice Johnston, Rick Jeffries, and Janelle King. Now, all 3 of them have shown their election denier ideologies either on social media and or by their alliances. So Dr. Johnston is active in the Election Integrity Network, a right-wing election network. And she was the one that went to the rally where Trump called all 3 of them out by name and kind of supported them. Well, she not only was attending the rally, but when he called her out by name, she stood up and waved to the crowd. This is somebody who is supposed to have a code of ethics of being impartial. Rick Jeffries is being investigated for his role in, yes, helping to overturn the 2020 election. And yet he was appointed to this Georgia Election Board that is supposed to oversee elections to make sure that they are fair in Georgia. He has also told people that he should be having a job in, yes, a future Trump administration. This is somebody also who supposedly has a code of ethics.
They just passed a rule for Georgia elections requiring that 3 people at each precinct independently count the total number of ballots before certification. Who could be against that? Who could be against it? Thank you, Janice, very much. That's really amazing. Thank you all. Thank you all. Those are great people. I'd say brave, but I mean, to you, it's like that you got to do what you have to do, right? It's not like a question of brave. They said I was brave 2 weeks ago. I had to do what I had to do. It's not like brave, right? It's just we do the right thing.
Now, last time Trump tried to interfere with Georgia elections, he just picked up the phone and expected the governor to find him some votes. But that ended up resulting in RICO charges for him and a bunch of people and a governor with a conscience. So it didn't work out. So him and his MAGA cohorts are getting more strategic this time around.
So tell me, Brad, what are we going to do? We won the election, and it's not fair to take it away from us like this. And it's going to be very costly in many ways.
It's not about fighting socialism or communism or Marxist whatever. It's not about America first. It's not about some deep state that needs to be uprooted. It's about wanting our system of government to go away. It's about creating a sense of emergency, a sense of an enemy within, so that the public at large can be pushed and persuaded into giving up this system of government and just letting their guy, their real man, their strong man take over. And when that is what you are up against, no, do not be surprised when it turns out they're not going to respect election results because they don't want elections to be the way we decide things anyway. Trump is now telling his supporters, you will never have to vote again. He's also even more frequently telling his supporters that he doesn't even need them to vote for him this time. He doesn't need their votes. Why does he not need their votes? Because he apparently thinks he can get back into power without them. Republicans really have stacked election boards in all of the swing states with dozens of officials who are bent on not allowing the certification of the vote totals in their counties and thereby, hopefully, messing up the certification of the vote totals in their states. It is happening. And yes, Kamala Harris on the Democratic side, she really is running a juggernaut of a campaign. It is going to get turbocharged all the more tomorrow when she announces her running mate. But on the Republican side, they are doing something entirely different, which is not about winning the most votes. It is about stopping the votes from being counted.
This is why they are trying to have their election deniers oversee elections in Georgia. Now, this Georgia election board, now that they have a majority election deniers, has already done some damage. Back in the spring, they proposed some rule changes that failed, and now they just recently passed. This rule changes the certification duty. The county certification process used to be, and it's supposed to be, administrative, more like ceremonial, because the actual counting tabulation goes at a lower level. And as the certification kind of goes up the process between the county to the state to the federal government, it's really more ceremonial in nature, which is why Vice President Pence couldn't do anything but present them to Congress. So in Georgia, the state election board changed it to include a phrase that gives more leeway, doesn't make it so administrative anymore, and allows for a reasonable inquiry. Now, when you are dealing with people who are election deniers, and conspiracy theorists around election, this is a dangerous thing. The fact is, as I reported in an earlier MeidasTouch video, Trump has told us if you vote in this election, you don't have to vote again. And it could be because him and his cohorts are trying to fix the election and they think they have figured out.
And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote. And our primary focus is not to get out the vote. It's to make sure they don't cheat. Because we have all the votes you need. You can see it. Every house along the way has signs. Trump, 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 Trump Vance, Trump Vance. And by the way, Vance is doing a great job. And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You don't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine.
But I said there's a lot going on at the surface level in terms of donors and campaign positions and campaign strategy and the way they're behaving in public. There's a lot that is weird. There is one last thing in terms of the weirdness of this campaign that I think is actually quite serious. You probably heard this weekend that Donald Trump told an audience on Friday night that if they vote for him this November, if he's voted back into office this November, they will never have to vote again. I mean, he's positing this like this is a happy thing. Oh, joy, never having the burden of voting again, right? The point of democracy is that we vote all the time. The day before that, on Thursday last week, he didn't say that people wouldn't have to vote anymore once he was elected this November. No, the day before that, on Thursday, he told his supporters, not that they're not going to have to vote again, but that they don't have to vote this time.
My instruction, we don't need the votes. I have so many votes.
Telling voters, do not bother to vote for me. It doesn't matter if you do. I don't need your votes. That is a thing that should prick up your ears. Because what that means is that he doesn't think he needs to win the vote to win the election. He doesn't think he needs to win the election in order to take power. He thinks something other than votes is going to determine whether or not he gets back in the White House.
Because Trump is actually calling out by name Georgia election board officials who are usually really people that nobody knows their name. So he's intimately involved, and he's putting out on Truth Social posts about the details and the governance of these boards. But it's not just Trump that is involved in trying to steal the Georgia election this fall. It's the Republican National Committee. Now, if you remember, this board is supposed to be nonpartisan, and they have a code of conduct that's even supposed to make sure they're nonpartisan. But American Doom obtained emails that showed that there was a recent undemocratic meeting that occurred. There was not proper notice given to the lone Democrat member on that board, and they pushed through rules allowing for new and more poll observers, which when you're dealing with election deniers, you don't think that they're actually going to be making sure people are properly counted. And they did this meeting in connection with the Georgia Republican Party and the Republican National Committee. There was emails showing all of them involved directing the Georgia election board members, who are supposed to be nonpartisan, how to proceed with this meeting and what rules they wanted. So here you have a major party interfering with how elections are run at the state and county level. Not only that, but this meeting was not live streamed, even though all the other meetings were not live streamed. So not proper notice, wasn't public with there being no live stream. This is what you would call democracy not in action.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.